10 GOAT hráčů, který dokázali nemožné. Nemožné. Ano.
Hey, today we're going to do something a little different, something fun. We're going to take a look at 10 of the best gamers that you should know about. Someone call them the greatest of all time for doing various things, big and small, that just make the internet and the gaming world a little more interesting. We got 10 cool examples, all linked in the description down below. So let's get started off with number 10. Let me solo her. This is the obvious one. Let me solo her was basically...
Tohle je takovej chábr, ten týpek, kámo. Kolik má těch rekilů na Malény? 2000? To je hrozný blázen.
Like the year of 2022 personified. It was all Elden Ring and all Let Me Solo Her. As you probably remember, Elden Ring was the biggest game of 2022. It broke into the mainstream. Everybody was playing this freaking game. And everybody was struggling with it because it's incredibly challenging. Specifically the boss Malenia. She's legendary for a reason. The Scarlet Rot. Her obnoxious attacks with brutally small windows. She was really, really tough. A legendary From Software boss for sure. But Let Me Solo Her.
Mně to hlavně přijde zajímavý to, že Malenia je jeden z mála bossů, kterýho opravdu hráči zabíjeli se samonama. Že to je takový jakoby opravdu jeden boss, kde skoro každý hráč, který teda jakoby není, já nevím, jako skillful, tak prostě to porážel s někým, což je zajímavý.
Made it a little better. This was just one person out there waiting to be summoned by any player that needed help, and they apparently helped thousands of people in defeating this boss. All they really wanted was for you to summon them, and then you sit back and let them take care of it. And they would do it with a jar on their head and totally naked. It's legendary stuff because they also mastered the art of defeating this boss. They could crush it. So if you were struggling and you got lucky and maybe you summoned Let Me Solo Her, you probably know about them like an absolute legend just for this alone. Just like a helpful person in the gaming community. It's what we need. They were also an inspiration.
Já se spíš jakoby bojím toho, co nás čeká potom v DLCčku. To bude nějaká Malenie s 2 rukama třeba. Jakože by Malenie a dual wield katany prostě, jo, s bleedingem, něco takového, to bude strašný. Jako,
and after helping thousands and thousands of people defeat her, we've also seen other people pop up and help thousands of people, like Let Me Solo Them, the character or real player who has been summoned by thousands to help them beat the final boss or bosses of Elden Ring. It's just an inspiration, really. You don't have to know anything about them or what their angle really is other than that they're here to help and that they are immensely appreciated. You know, so many multiplayer games or games where you can summon people, they just come in and they either suck or they're just trying to purposely mess up your shit. But Let Me Solo Her went the complete opposite and became like a civic, helpful, good Samaritan. Hopefully the bat signal will light once again with the Shadows of the Erdtree Elden Ring DLC and they'll be back. But
řeknu ještě jednou, máme nějaký nepotvrzený info, že by v lednu měl být reveal DLCčka. Tak uvidíme, jaký bude leden, no. Možná nakonec ten příští rok nebude tak špatný, jako byl tenhle ten. Snad.
We'll just have to wait and see. Next, over at number 9, if you played GTA Online anytime before March of 2023, you know that those long loading times absolutely suck.
Jo,
the reason they don't anymore is because of
to je ten týpek, který upravil ten GTAčkovej skript na loading toho onlineu, že jo? Protože kdykoliv jste zapínali online, tak se vždycky stahovaly všechny skiny ve hře, prostě úplně...
Made patch that Rockstar actually took and made a real official patch. This was done by GitHub user TosterCX or T0ST. Without getting too into the weeds, there were some issues with some CPU bottlenecking, and after a fix, it had reduced GTA Online loading times by up to like 70%. That's a crazy number. And along with that, they were even awarded $10,000 cash as part of Rockstar's bug bounty program that they have. They essentially put out a call for people to find difficult bugs and fix them. Rockstar realized how impressive this specific user's mod was, and then they put out this statement, and I quote, "After a thorough investigation, we can confirm that player Tost did, in fact, reveal an aspect of the game code related to load times for the PC version of GTA Online that could be improved. As a result of these investigations, we have made some changes that will be implemented in a forthcoming title update. How cool is that? A player took it into their own hands to make their experience a more enjoyable one, and they got some Rockstar recognition and also did a huge solid for all of their fellow GTA Online players, which is like, you know, probably millions. They helped millions of people. We're big fans of modders here at GameRanks. We don't do too many mods ourselves or even mod our games as much as we used to, but we still appreciate a good old classic mod success story. They make us very happy. Next, over at number 8, we got
Mě strašně zajímá, co udělat s tou GTA 6, protože já si myslím, že správná jediná cesta, jak vyřešit tu modding komunitu u GTAčka, tak aby z toho Rockstaři měli prachy, tak je povolit paid mody. Jo, že prostě podle mě to je jakoby jediná rozumná cesta, jak to vyřešit, protože jinak ti budou vznikat prostě píčoviny okolo, pořád. A hlavně oni, jestli kupovali FIVem, říkám to správně, FIVem, tak mají aspoň platformu, na který to můžou stavět, že jo?
Talk about Elite Dangerous, an incredibly deep space simulation game with really good communities around it, and specifically one group of dedicated players known as the East India Company Gaming. In the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, when lockdowns were in full force, some people were out of jobs, some people were stuck at home and just played video games. A lot of people dumped into Elite Dangerous looking for an escape, but the game can be pretty challenging. Now, where the East India Company Gaming group came in, they essentially would just be out there for players to help. As Eurogamer noted, specifically with the grind of engineer-based ship improvements, but they brought all good resources to players. Where they would usually charge a fee for that, they had decided to waive that fee in, you know, the spirit of giving and taking care of one another. It was something that we saw during the lockdowns. As much as people were isolated in some instances, people kind of came together and helped each other in whatever ways they could. And it happened in the gaming world too. Just this group of space players flying around, helping other people out, getting them the resources they need, making the game a little bit more accessible, and ultimately...
Ono je přece pravda, že tohle byl strašně zajímavý čas během toho covidu hrát nějaký MMOčko, protože já si pamatuju, že i třeba Blizzardi tak zvýšili levelení altů, zrychlili levelení altů o 50% třeba, ve Vovku. Takže oni třeba tyhle ty věci docela bych řekl, že pomohli spoustě lidí, ale obvykle záleží na tom, jak to prostě každý vnímal, no.
Getting more people into Elite Dangerous, a great game, but also just helping people that were already in that game world. You know, maybe they smiled, maybe they had a little bit of a better time. The quote that Eurogamer got from them is, "It only takes small things to show we are a community." And sometimes those small gestures, you know, just small handouts are really appreciated and make someone's day. So shout out to them. Next, over at number 7, Fortnite player and streamer Bush Camp Dad managed to hit the Unreal ranking in Fortnite by camping. Just camping. That's it. This dude would hide in a bush and just hug the circle, as their name implies. And that's not to say that he's never gotten a kill. Sure, he has, but most of his time was spent just camping. When the rank actually popped, he came in 5th place. And with that ranking, he now sits in the top 30,000 players, which is really funny because, you know, the bulk of those players actually did their due diligence and probably kicked ass and got a ton of those dubs and just really worked hard at winning. But not Bush Camp Dad.
Tak jenom to kámo ukazuje to, že kempení je valid strategie. A takhle moc, tak to je hustý, no.
Who is obviously more about working smarter than working harder. And we're all about that. I 100% would absolutely rubber band my analog sticks on my Xbox 360 controller to rank up my guy in Rainbow Six Vegas so I could get a cool helmet or a gun or whatever. It's about sometimes working smart, not working hard. And Bush Camp Dad did that. He proved that to all of us. Sometimes, you know, we take this gaming stuff so seriously. Sometimes he can just screw around. And you know what? It made us chuckle. It probably made a lot of other people chuckle, so we really appreciate them for that. Now, next over at number 6, this one is pretty intense because it's EVE Online, and I am not well-versed in this series, but it is a massive
Kámo, tohle je ta situace, kde oni zachraňovali toho hráče, že jo? To byl normální příběh. Tohle jsem nekavroval, ale vím o tom.
Game where people basically live second lives.
Myslím, že to je ono.
People get together, command entire ships, run companies and businesses in these games, and sometimes big wars will break out, huge things will happen, drama will go down, real world money sometimes is in play, and a great example of that was this big assassination. Essentially, it was 10 months of somebody deceiving somebody else.
What?
10 months of one person infiltrating a ship company and becoming like one of the top commanders, only to, after 10 months, when the leader has their back turned, they stab him in the back, they kill him. And apparently it was a whole coordinated plan of attack, codenamed Nicole, and a bunch of players rushed in. And not only did they kill an important leader, but they also made off with 30 billion ISK, which
Ježiš, kámo, to je příběh, jako... A mám tady někoho, kdo hraje WoW Classic. Pamatujete si toho týpka, který zničil celou tu jednu gildu na hardcore, když je nechal zabít u těch Four Horsemenů. Ty bláho, i z Judgment Day, tak tohle je taky hodně podobný, to je strašně hustý. On tam člověče možná někde bude, jo? Já se podívám. Ne, nebude. Hele, to je příběh, jo. Existuje WoW Classic. Ve WoWku ve Vanille taky je nejtěžší raid Karazhan. Ne Karazhan, sorry, to je v TBCčku až, je to Naxxramas. A v Naxu, tak vy máte jeden fight, kde potřebujete 4 tanky a zabijíte tam 4 bose de facto najednou. No a co se stalo, tak je to, že nějaký týpek tak se prostě rozhodnul infiltrovat nějakou gildu. Rok se snažil s těma lidma kamarádi. Získávali jich trust a tak dále a tak dále. A potom je normálně všechny u toho fightu zabil. Protože je natáhnul na špatnou stranu a prostě dostali tam nějakým laserem a umřeli tam prakticky jakoby všichni, jo. A protože to byl hardcore, tak přišli o postavu. Ale ty bláho, to byla jakoby fakt síla tohle, no. Děkuji, Noriako. A nejlepší byl kámo jako rozhovor s tím týpkem, jo. Týpek totální psychopat. On byl, myslím, že u Stay Safe. A tam se mu ptal, proč to udělal. A on říkal, on to udělal, protože byl Judgment Day. Judgment Day, jakože to byl... Ono to je z Bible, že jo, Judgment Day. Teď mi vypadlo, jak to přeložit do češtiny prostě. Den... No. Jak se to dá přeložit, čete? Ano, že je soudný den. To je soudný den prostě. A tako, necítíš se, že to nebylo nefér? Ne, protože byl soudný den. Prostě úplnej blázen, ten týpek.
The in-game currency, which according to PC Gamer was worth almost 17,000 US dollars. Now there was actually like kind of like a contract. The original fee for this job was apparently a lot more, but still, this just takes dedication. And that's also just huge drama because these are people interacting with each other, getting to know each other in this game world, living out their space lives in the galaxy or whatever of Eve. The assassin was known as Aranis, and they are now a legend. And it makes for an incredible story. If you want to read up on the whole thing, we'll link a couple of resources in the description down below because Eve is filled with incredible, massive things that happen in their game worlds that sometimes you don't even hear about. Next over at number 5, you remember that one time maybe you were playing Dark Souls or Sekiro or whatever, and you beat one boss without somehow taking a single hit, getting lucky? Well, this streamer who goes by Dino or Dino, if I'm pronouncing this right, they did just that, but with every...
Oni to jsou kamarádi, no. Dino a Happy Hop tak de facto dělají tyhle challenge runy a oni oba dva porazili všech 7 Souls-like her za sebou bez jediného hitu.
Every single boss in every single FromSoft game. Yes, that's right. They beat Bloodborne, Demon's Souls, Sekiro, Elden Ring, and Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 back to back without taking a single hit. Am I allowed to say? Can I say that again, just for the monumental feat that is? They beat Bloodborne, Demon's Souls, Sekiro, Elden Ring, and Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 back to back without taking a single hit. This is called the God Run and has only been done 2 times prior to this by other streamers. Kotaku had a nice chat with Dino. If you want to check it out, we'll link that in the description. He mentions Sekiro and Elden Ring in particular kicking his ass. And if you played Sekiro, you know that's true. But after 4 months of Sekiro and Elden Ring putting him to work, he pulled it off. And for that, we think a round of applause is more than warranted. Not only would I never do that in my lifetime, I would never even think about doing that. So hats off to them. Next over at number 4, we wanted to highlight Zezima. In the mainstream gaming world, not often discussed, but in...
Zezima je totální no-lifer a doteďka myslím, že nejznámější hráč RuneScapeu. Jakože OSRS, prostě absolutní šílenství bláho. Je to zajímavý, protože třeba Vovko má spoustu takových legend, jako je třeba Rekfl, Swifty, možná částečně Asmongold, ty vole, a pak takový ty jakoby opravdu hráči, jako třeba Holinka, že jo, a takový ty PvP legendy, ale myslím si, že v RuneScapeu tak neexistuje nikdo jako ze Zima, který by byl takhle známý.
In the RuneScape world, they are an absolute celebrity. This is because Zezima is the highest ranked player in RuneScape from around 2004 to 2007. They had been so aggressively at the top for so long that they became a celebrity not only in the community but within the game itself. Reportedly, people would follow around Zezima whenever they were playing. Like they rolled with a posse, a crowd, an entourage, just a crowd of people hounding them. Not only was he at the top of the high scores, but basically he was maxed out in everything. And for a lot of kids playing the game at the time, Zezima was like a legend. It got to the point where Zezima was such...
RuneScape ještě existuje? Hele, doslova teďko RuneScape hraje nejvíc hráčů, co tu hru kdy hrálo. RuneScape teďko si prochází takovou novou renesancí, podobně jako Hearthstone. Že doslova RuneScape opravdu teďko jakoby je v nejlepším stavu, v jakém kdy bylo. A ta hra má, myslím, že třeba 250 000 hráčů online v píku. Což je neskutečný prostě. Je to zajímavý, ale fakt se stalo to, že Osiris se prostě zachránilo. No.
Such a big deal that Jagex, the developers, would actually promote them on the social and score page when they came around. Apparently Zezima bowed out at a point from just trying to be the best, you know, the #1 spot, but still remains pretty close on those charts. The name Zezima will probably live on in RuneScape forever, because legends never die. Next, over at number 3, we need to highlight Flash. Now, we don't talk about esports very often here at GameRanks. It's not really...
Flash je doteďka nejlepší hráč StarCraftu, který tady kdy byl. A pravděpodobně už tady nebude nikdy lepší. Jsou tu lidi, jako je třeba J-Dong, kterýho podle mě spousta z vás znáte, protože to byl jeden čas nejlepší Zerg hráč na světě. A pak nějaký prostě jakoby další lidi, jako je třeba Seraph, což je nejlepší Evropan. Ale ty vole, Flash je prostě úplně jiná kategorie sama o sobě, no.
Really our thing, but in terms of video game history, Flash is significant because they're probably one of the biggest esports player of all time. But not only that, like one of the first in the early days in Korea.
Jakoby mám pocit, že jediný dvě jména, které jsou jakoby silnější než Flash dneska, tak je Simple a potom Faker. Protože prostě ty dvě hry, které hrajou Simple a Faker, jsou větší. Ale tyhle ty tři hráči jsou opravdu jakoby takový ty legendy svojí hry. Jo, že si prostě řekneš hru a víš, o kom mluvíš.
Specifically when StarCraft was popping off in the early world of esports. His competitive StarCraft 2 career only went from 2011 to 2015 when he retired, but long before that, as a young player, he was absolutely sweeping things up with StarCraft Brood War. Like at 14, he scored his first big victory. In fact, by many, he is believed to be the greatest StarCraft Brood War player ever. Now, Flash is still out there in the gaming world as more of a broadcaster, but for competitive StarCraft fans, his name is in the history books. Now, down to number 2, we need to talk about something called the A Button Challenge. According to Wikipedia.net, this was apparently born from kids and people just trying to beat Super Mario 64 by pressing the A button as little as possible. It gets to the point where it's kind of like speedrunning.
To je kámo strašlivá halus. Prostě frajeři po asi 15 letech trasování se jim podařilo jakoby projít celého Super Mario 64 bez skoku, prostě, oblázni.
Where players are doing weird maneuvers and weird manipulations and exploits in the game to do everything possible, almost break the game to avoid pressing the A button. It is absolutely an impressive thing. It's completely fascinating. There are a couple of YouTube video essays out there worth watching. Just the degree of dedication and focus and weird obsession this fun little meta game. Player Pen Coec 2012 is the one that's kind of the legend by most. That name comes up the most when you look up the A Button Challenge because of the videos they've made and the insane level of dedication towards this, manipulating the game and figuring things out that nobody else has, including manipulating the game and uncovering and exploiting weird glitches that often take years and years of practice and beating their head against the game and making videos that take hours and hours. And one of the most interesting things was how they tackled Watch for Rolling Rocks, the infamous Super Mario 64 level that is really infamous with the A Button Challenge. Really just some incredible stuff has come from this. It's hard to explain, but it is really impressive when you dive into it. And, you know, going hard on the A button challenge has been impressive, and not only Pan and Koek, but people have been whittling it down to, according to Wikipedia, a 120-star playthrough completed in as few as 13 A button presses. So to Pan and Koek 2012 for doing all these weird things with Mario 64, and also the people continuously trying to whittle down the A button challenge, you are legends. Now, down at number 1, considered by many one of the all-time great moments in MMO or multiplayer game history, it's the guy who committed regicide or assassinated a royal person. Actually, it's Ultima Online. One player accidentally committed regicide.
Jo, to je tohle, ježišmarja. Jo, tohle vysvětlovat bude těžký, jo, dobře, já nechám mluvit.
Lord British. Lord British is the gaming alter ego of the video game developer, the legend Richard Garriott. Apparently in Ultima, like, Lord British has always been a thing, and they were always marked as unkillable. So the way the story goes, and this is a hard one to translate if you don't play Ultima Online or if you haven't been in that world. Apparently, the Lord British character showed up in Ultima Online during like a big beta test. It was like a beta stress test, and the whole thing was to have the king show up to the population as part of that stress test. It's kind of funny, it's kind of charming, but there was this player known as Reigns who casted a fire spell on Lord British that killed him. This was actually not intentional. This was an error because, like I said, typically this king character shows up and is marked as unkillable or is technically unkillable, but the way the stress test stuff was going down when it bounced from server to server, apparently some of those restrictions were turned off and one player just clicked and oops.
Bych tak já mu řekl, že daleko jakoby větší chábr je ten, který vytáhnul ten mor ve Vovku z té instance do města. Ten, který způsobil ten mor během, co to bylo, katáče? Teď nejsem jistý, jestli to byl katáč nebo TBCčko, ale to bylo taky jako zázračný, no.
Killed the king, the legendary king, like this whole Ultima legend and an actual connection to the real world creator. An iconic character killed, assassinated,
to byl
regicide by accident, by oops, one stupid click. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you read accounts from people who were there or who were at least involved in that world, this was freaking crazy, dude. This was a crazy big thing because Richard Garriott was considered untouchable. He was like the legend. Lord British was the legend. Lord British floats around still in various Ultima things, but that was the one time where they slipped up and he was able to be killed, because anytime something is killable in an MMO or a multiplayer game, someone's gonna do it. Someone's gonna go for it. A funny whoopsie on all parts, but absolute legends all around. Just players in video game history books for good or bad. Mostly cool stuff that made us smile. Gamers that you should know about. These are 10 examples, and of course, if you want to read up on any of these, they'll all be linked in the description down below. But that's really the gist. So we'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Do you have any more examples? There are definitely plenty out there. But if you like this video and you like talking games with us every day, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really does help us out. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
No, takový přehled. Ono se toho děje strašně moc, kámo.